From crease to crease and corner to corner, Bettor Hockey Now is NHL fantasy and betting done better. Step into the dot for Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network.
And the cat leaves just in time to not be on the screen. Good job, Phoenix. Welcome into the 22nd edition of Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. I am your host, Adam Bernard, and with me, as always, my line mates, Mr. Anthony Rivera at Ant Rivera 86 and Mr. Christopher Morais at Fuzzy Chris 91. We are officially into November. Plenty to talk about today. Fellas, how was the weekend?
Pretty well. We are deep in the heart of this hockey season. It's nice to see. A lot going on. Your Rangers are off to an incredible start, Adam. I'll say that. And a nice little nod to the Henrik Lundqvist for going into the Hall of Fame as well.
Well-deserved, Mr. Henrik Lundqvist, the king, as they call him in New York. Chris, how was your week? I know we're battling a little bit of a bug today, but other than that, how are we doing?
I mean, it's still better than Jay Woodcroft's weekend. So nobody had a worse weekend, I think, than him.
You know, we'll get into this later, but like, is it better or worse when you get fired from a job and everybody's like, yeah, it wasn't his fault? You know, like, does that make you feel better or worse afterwards? I don't know. But either way, he is not employed.
It was very nice of Edmonton to at least allow him to come home with the team and then say, hey, by the way, we'll just lock the door. Don't worry about it. Leave the keys on the desk.
So how well do you know Seattle-Tacoma Airport, Jay? Do you know what terminal you need to get to? Because I don't know if you're coming home with us. Anyway, we'll get into the Oilers later. That's going to be our team focus today. We'll also do a little fantasy focus out of Winnipeg, Alex Iafallo. But first, of course, got to do some quick hits here. And first up is William Nylander. He's on a tell me if you've heard this one before. A guy in a contract year is performing out of his mind. That never happens. Never. He's currently on a 15-game point streak, 10 goals, 12 assists to open the season, 8 power play points. They got a few days off here, so he might cool off as they get ready to head over for the NHL International Series. Detroit, Minnesota, and Ottawa heading over there too. Obviously, he can't keep up this pace. But is he someone you're trying to sell high on right now, or is he a hold with the confidence that he's still going to produce at a really strong level because of the team he plays for, because of this contract year, even when he does have the regression back to a normal pace?
I think he's a guy you hold on to, like you said, because of the team he's on, because of what he's doing. He is 6th in points, tied for 10th with assists, and tied for 7th in goals. This is a guy, unless you're in a keepers league and you can get multiple pieces for your future, I would suggest holding on to Nylander for sure. That's a guy that's going to score you a lot of points. He's on a nice line with Tavares and Bertuzzi. And I would definitely hold on to him for the season. I like him. I think he's a good pick.
I don't know why you believe that he cannot keep this pace up. I mean, this is William Nylander. He is making sure that he reminds the rest of the world that he is elite. He also leads the NHL in shots. So he is doing everything that you want a goal scorer and an elite winger to do, which is fire the puck on goal. He's racking. He makes everybody around him better. And for all the talk about, John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, it's always William Nylander that gets forgotten. And it's always him that's the odd man out, has to take less so everybody else can get paid. And he's the one who shows up in the playoffs no matter what. So I think, like you said, no shock that in a contract year, William Nylander is making a case to go and collect his $13 million a season. I'm not sure how the Arizona Coyotes are going to mortgage their future to have that happen, but he is out here to put a stamp on his season, and I don't see him slowing down one bit. The only way he slows down is if he gets hurt, and I don't. That's not something Willie Nylander's had to deal with either. He's been relatively healthy his entire career, so I think he can go out there and top 100 points without breaking a sweat. I think he can challenge 115 points if he maintains this pace, which I think he can. At some point, he's going to go one game without a point because he's human, but I don't see him slowing down one bit, and I think he slowly enters the conversation for the Hart Trophy, depending on how far the Toronto Maple Leafs can, drag themselves.
Last year, over a full season, 40 goals, 47 assists, total 87 points, had 80 points the year before that. So staying at a point per game pace, certainly well within his realm. Right now, he's got 22 and 15, so definitely over a point a game. So again, the other thing that helps him out too is even if he does go into, we'll say, a mini slump, it's not going to be as magnified because he's got a cast of characters around it. Matthews, Marner, Tavares, they'll pick up the slack even if he slows down a tiny bit. So it's not like, oh, he stopped scoring and now that's a focal point. And now because he's the team center, then all of a sudden that becomes a problem for the team. Even if he does slow down a tiny bit, a slump won't turn into a multi-week slump because of that.
I also think game script here, every game for the Leafs is going to play in for it. It's not like the Maple Leafs are a great defensive team, right? Ilya Samsonov can't stop a beach ball. Joseph Woll is reminded of who is playing in front of him. John Klingberg has been an absolute mess. How convenient of him to be dealing with a mystery injury after playing probably the worst hockey I've ever seen a defenseman play. So the Maple Leafs have to go out there and score goals because they can't defend very well. And their goaltending, through no fault of their own, are not very good. So the Leafs have to go out there. They have to dominate. They have to score goals. And that just means more Willie Nylander every year. The secondary scoring, again, is non-existent at best. So, I don't see where Willie Nylander is slowing down.
I don't know who is yet to be a free agent next season, but this guy could probably be the top get in the offseason when it comes to free agency. So definitely William Nylander's, I feel like is, like you said, I don't see him slowing down one bit.
There's no state tax, I hear, in Arizona. There's no state tax, I know, in Florida. Yeah. The poor man has to take the subway to the game because there's just so much traffic in downtown Toronto. He could solve all of this by living in the Parkland area of Florida, which is about, I guess, a 25-minute drive to the arena.
Now, if you're Toronto, is this like because of the way the year he's having and because you're not going to be able to keep him, are chips going to be pushed to the center of the table at the deadline even more so because you're going to be losing a key piece like this next year or no?
No, I can't see Toronto if they are pushing. Let's even best case scenario. Let's say they're leading at the top of the division at some point. I can't imagine them selling him because they can't retain him. I feel like that's something that Brad Treliving will push down the table and just say, "Hey, we'll deal with this in the offseason." But I just can't picture it.
Now, do they go the other way though? And because they know this guy is walking, they go. They obviously every trade deadline you're trying to do everything you can, but do you go maybe a little bit harder because you're going to be losing such a offensive force on a team that that's saying something considering the cast he's with?
And I can't picture it. I feel like Toronto is just going to keep adding as they get closer to the trade deadline. Their whatever salary cap space they will have will multiply. They'll be able to do something, but obviously they can't sign him at the money that he's going to want, and he has earned it. He doesn't need to take another pay cut. He basically did at his last standoff, took a deal that I think was friendly for the team and was decent for him at the time. So I can't imagine negotiations going very, saying, hey, team friendly, especially when you look around the room and you see a lot of guys who have clearly not made any sacrifices for him in terms of money. At one point, it's a question of numbers, right? You just can't fit it all under the cap. And the Leafs have other needs that they have to address here. They have to address their goaltending. They have to address defense. So you're not moving Austin Matthews. It's not going to happen. Nobody is taking John Tavares' contract. And between Willie Nylander and Mitch Marner, I would much rather have Willie Nylander. So I don't. The market would be good for Marner. I don't think anybody's going to entertain it as much as they want. So this just leaves Willie Nylander as, unfortunately, the odd man out because he has earned the money that he is going to get at some point. The question, like I said, is it 12 and a half? Is it 13? Who's buying for it? There are some teams who would gladly pay up for the services of Nylander.
The Leafs are currently third in the Atlantic Division with the Red Wings Panthers ahead of them, and Chris's favorite team, the Boston Bruins, with one loss at the top. So I think that they are going to do everything that they can to, at the very least, get into a playoff spot, and try to, anything can happen. Try to win a cup with this team as is. If they could trade for a goalie, great. But there are a lot of teams that are going to be vying for goalies, including my New Jersey Devils. So I don't know who's available either. Not what we've heard of John Gibson is, I don't think, enough to entice anyone right now. So yeah, I think that you hold on to him and you try to at least, try with the wheel one more time and see if they can, pull off a win here this season. It's going to be hard, obviously, and like the negotiations are probably not going to go well, but the Leafs are probably trying their best to win a cup after a lot of the Canadian teams having a hard time trying to win one. So I would hold on to him and see if we can make magic happen.
Now, you said the free agent class for next year, besides Nylander, Steven Stamp, and these are just names that are in the ballpark of quality of player at the forward position. Stamkos, obviously, Jake Gensel, I'm looking down, Teuvo Teravainen, Jonathan Marchessault, Elias Lindholm. So those are probably some of your Tyler Toffoli. So those are probably some of your top, names that are going to be available at the forward position. So that give you an idea of the class. Now, speaking of young players that continue to have a strong season, Connor Bedard is continuing to bedazzle. Had his first multi-point game last week against Tampa Bay and became the third youngest player in NHL history to have a 4-point game. He's got 13 points into 13 games heading into Tuesday night after 2 more goals in Sunday's loss to Florida. He opened the season with his over-under total at 31.5 goals and 68.5 points. It's pretty laughable now, on pace for 82 points. So at this point, we all agree he's probably going to lead the league in rookie scoring. He's going to run away with the Calder. He's having the season that the NHL wanted him to have and that he wanted to have.
He's dominant. Just watching him, even the first goal he scored against Florida, just his game sense is just on a whole other level. There are veterans who don't have the game sense that he has, and he is executing at a whole other level, regardless of who he plays with on the ice. Like, he's not surrounded by a ton of skill, and he just goes out there and dominates. He's already up to 9 goals on the season. Like you said, the 30.5 was kind of laughable. I smashed that at as many places as I could on Underdogs, and whatever other site was offering some money on it. I felt like that was a pretty good number. Everybody was saying, "Oh, it's hard for rookies to score goals," and it's true. It is hard to score goals in the NHL. And then there's Connor Bedard, who reminds us that nothing he does is hard. He's only going to get better, right? He's got 13 games of NHL experience. He's only going to get better. We'll see how his body handles the grind of an NHL season. How nice of Matthew Tkachuk to try to be himself with Connor Bedard, kind of trying to get under his skin and whatnot. But this kid is just built. He's built different. And there's nothing that's going to slow him down. He's starting to look like he's getting his feet under himself. He's starting to get accustomed to how the NHL plays, and he is just going out there and doing it. He's got 4 goals in the last 2, 6 points total. I mean, I don't know how we're going to start slowing him down now.
Yeah, putting that into perspective, he's got 6 goals and 8 points in the last 5 games. And we're still early on in the season. He has not missed a beat. He's right up there at doing well for this Chicago team. One of the only things to look forward to, because Chicago is right at the bottom of the barrel with the Predators. So we're going to continue to see this kid grow with this team. And I don't know how long it's going to take them to be ready and be a team that's in contention with all the teams that are in that Central Division. The Stars, the Avalanche, the Jets are, what they are. I don't know how the Blues are doing so well right now at 7-5. Coyotes and Wild, surprisingly, are 5-8 to me. So yeah, the Blackhawks are going to have a tough time right now, but we'll see how long it takes them to, turn this around. Just like when Connor McDavid was drafted to the Oilers. So we'll see how long it takes for Chicago to get themselves going.
From a dynasty fantasy perspective, if you were lucky enough to have the first pick in this year's rookie draft in your league, or if you started up your league this year and you got him early, is there a price, like how many first round picks before you even entertain trading this guy? Like, is it 4, 5, like your next 4 picks? It's got to be something insane because right now there's literally, I don't know if you gave me your next 10 first round picks, I don't know if I want to trade him right now.
But are we talking about, like, is your team struggling that you need these picks?
No, I'm just saying in a hypothetical, just in a vacuum, how many, if you have any shares of Connor Bedard in a dynasty league, what number of first round picks before you even entertain an offer? Because that's how valuable he is in dynasty right now.
Yeah. I would assume it would have to be around 4 or 5, right? At the very least. I mean, if you got to that point where you were drafting Connor Bedard, I don't feel like you'd want to get rid of him. Like, you got that point for a reason and you want him and you're going to ride it through with him. It doesn't even matter how Chicago's doing because he's getting you points. And that's what you wanted. That's what you knew you were getting when he was coming into the league. And we all knew that he probably was going to get off to a good start as well. So he is living up to the expectations of what we thought he was going to do. And that's hard to come by. And he's a generational talent. Like if it was somebody else, maybe you would think even like a Jack Hughes, maybe you would have thought about trading him after the first year. I don't think you're doing that with a Connor Bedard.
Yeah, I can't move.
It's so many. It's like, for me, it would start with 3, and then I'd probably need a roster player coming the other way as well, or like a young player or a piece, right? So, I mean, I probably wouldn't move them just for like a collection of picks, right? I'm not going to be like the NBA where we just trade, 5, 6
Yeah.
first round picks because they're worth whatever they are. But it would have to be multiple. I'd probably need a roster player as well, probably 2 if you don't want to leverage that kind of future, right? So if you're saying, well, let's say I want to do 2 or 3 first round picks, you're like, all right, well, I still need a good young player, and I probably still need a roster player that I can, put on my team to finish out the year. But
like a
it would
William
be a hard
Nylander type.
Yeah, we're talking about a top line, first line player, along with those picks coming to you in a trade for Bedard right now.
The player that's included in that trade has to be somebody that would normally fetch multiple pieces himself. It has to be that caliber player. I honestly, and if you don't want, if you're not going to move it like a player of that level in a deal right now, don't talk to me if you're not offering me 5 first round picks. I'm sorry, because yes, if you look at the first round top overall picks, these guys pan out, these guys can play well, but like Anthony said, generational talent. He's like you said, Chris, 13 games in and he looks like this. What's he going to look like in 26 games and 39 games? Like, yeah,
unlikely he goes to the World Juniors this year. Just on a hunch here. I don't think he's going back to play any junior hockey at any point.
Probably not. No, I don't see that happening.
Well, we're talking about a kid who, at this time last year, we were talking about him and this particular moment of him playing this well in the NHL and how he could be compared to Connor McDavid. Now you got to look to next year, and who is that guy? Is there even a kid out there that can compare? There's really, I haven't heard of anyone yet.
I don't think there's a clear cut away. Even speaking of like the World Juniors, like he was a 17-year-old at a tournament that a lot of people believe is an 18, 19-year-old tournament where, there's a significant difference between 17 and 19 at that level and what you can do. And he looked like he not only belonged there, but like he could dominate there. So I can't, again, to go back to what your original question was, I can't imagine trading him for something that's not, exaggerated.
Yeah, it has to be something that any other trade that you would look at, you'd be like, no, I wouldn't do that in a million years. But for a player of that level, now if somebody wanted to talk Bedard for McDavid swap, that would get interesting. How you balance that out with picks on the other side of that, that would be an interesting trade to consider there. But yeah, bottom line is Connor Bedard, and the other thing that impresses me about him too is the way he's already handling himself. Like, yes, he's obviously a young kid in like a grown man's world, but like he's already carrying himself and handling himself in a way that it's like, okay, you are not a boy at all.
Is Connor McDavid the only guy, if you were swapping the two,
Yeah.
Is that a 1-for-1 swap?
Can't
Just
do one
those
for
two
one.
players? I feel like everyone else, there would be draft picks, but we are talking about Connor McDavid here. So is that you'd still be asking for draft picks?
Let's see. We'll have to see what happens with Edmonton over the next few weeks here and see how they get back on track. So that's probably, I would probably say I'm interested in that deal, no matter what side I'm on. But let's come back to it in a few weeks and see what happens with the Oilers here over the, Chris Knobloch coming in now and all that stuff. We'll get into Edmonton in a little bit, but yeah, I think there's got to be some sort of pick to balance it out, like maybe like a pick swap or something like that. But yeah, it's very close. Because
Not saying that Connor McDavid is old, but he's been in the league a little bit now. So that, that's the part that kind of builds off to it, right? On a dynasty, that age, matters for you and how long you can control a player and what he's going to give you. Like Connor Bedard's not nowhere near his peak yet. And I don't think that McDavid is going to start to drop at any point. I think if you have a player who's flirting with 150 points at any point of your career, that I feel like that's if that's a peak, that's quite a peak to have. So I would need something coming back the other way just to help balance out that somewhere.
You have to balance out that difference. But I mean, McDavid is still a bona fide 1A player for at least the next 7 years, I would say. So it's not. So you're still getting plenty of length out of that. On to the third period here of quick hits. Last week, if you caught Chris's waiver article over on fantasyalarm.com, which, by the way, you can get the Fantasy Alarm All-Pro subscription, unlock all content for all sports, including annual draft guides, daily and weekly rankings, and value vault, positional coaches, and more. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win and take advantage of the offers there now. Ilya Mikheyev was a guy you had in last week's article. All he did was get you 3 goals over 3 games this week, so not too shabby there for the red-hot Canucks. Who is a guy from the article you recommend this week?
I'm going to go with the cover boy here. It's going to be Wyatt Johnston. He is just quietly here, averaging a point per game pace almost. He's got 13 points in 14 games. He currently leads the Dallas Stars in goals, not Jason Robertson. Jason Robertson's taken a minute to get going here. Not Joe Pavelski, not the rest of the boys that are hanging out there. He's got as many points as Jason Robertson and Joe Pavelski. So I can't explain why he is only 30% owned on Yahoo. When I opened that earlier, I was confused and I checked. I made sure I had the right Wyatt Johnston. But he is there. Also, if you care about the most meaningless stat in hockey, he is a +5. He doesn't take a ton of penalties, so you're not going to get stuff those stats there. But he's obviously, the power play time is not there, so that's going to limit him. The ice time is still not where it needs to be in terms of elite players, but that's fine as well. He's got a couple of power play points. He's doing most of his damage at even strength, which is good for players to have. There, you want players to produce 5-on-5, and he is doing that. So you are looking for a centerman on your fantasy team, and for some reason, 70% of you don't believe Wyatt Johnston should be on your team. I understand that the center position is real deep in hockey, but a player who's averaging a point per game is allowed to be on your roster. So I don't see the Dallas Stars slowing down. I know their offense isn't where it needs to be yet, but this is a team that's only going to get better. And I think having, Johnston perform the way that he does, it just adds another layer to an already good Dallas team. You still got to respect Rupe Hintz. You still got to respect Robertson and Pavelski. You can't disregard Jamie Benn, Matt Duchene, and Tyler Seguin. So he's got space, and he's got to make what he has with the ice time that he's given.
I know that Johnson is having a pretty good run lately because his 2-goal, 1 performance, 2-goal, 1 assist performance on Sunday just edged out a fantasy loss for me, thanks to the other team having him. So yeah, 3 goals and 2 assists on the weekend certainly starting to heat up there. And when you look through the Dallas roster, I mean they're really built for both the regular season and the playoffs. When you look up and down the roster, they're going to be towards the top of the standings, I think, wire to wire here. I don't see them really slumping too much.
Johnston is someone who I picked up midway through last season. I was definitely struggling to get some wins. Started off, I think I started off 4-8 on the season. Picked him up. He was a huge help, turned the season around and led me to a cup championship and forever grateful. for that. And he's going to be a great player, I think, down there in Dallas for all the reasons that Chris stated. So, last season, 24 goals, 41 points, 17 assists, looking good. And like the plus minus 2, +6. I know Chris wants to hear that as well. So
meaningless. But Dallas quietly has one of the best, better center cores of the league. Rupe Hintz, Wyatt Johnston, Matt Duchene's not dead. So, those three can definitely keep up. And I think Dallas is in a good position. I am of the belief that if your center core is strong, you're going to have success in the NHL. There's a lot of teams that you look at when their center core is intact, the rest of that team has a ton of success. So, there's lots of room for Johnston to perform here. He's got a multitude of players around him that he can play with. So if ever he cools off a little bit, he can play with somebody else, kind of get that different spark going. And look, I can't believe it was 30%.
That's criminally low.
Yeah.
And when you look at Dallas, you're impressed with the center core down the middle. Let's say it's at the fourth line, maybe the fourth line, but come playoff time, they're going to be facing top teams' top lines a lot. Roddick Foxer, Craig Smith, Sam Steele. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Now we're going to head over to fantasy, folks. We're already talking a little fantasy this week. We're going to stay. It's been a very central division heavy episode. Just talk Bedard, just talk Dallas. Now we go north of the border and talk a little Winnipeg hockey. Alex Iafallo. This is a guy I picked up in a couple of leagues over the last week. He had 4 goals in 3 games to start, cooled off for a bit, but now he's got 8 points in his last 5. He's on Winnipeg's top line with Scheifele and Connor, and he's on the top power play unit, currently ranking 10th in goals per game. Winnipeg. He was the centerpiece in the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade going back to Winnipeg. So I think this is a guy we should be targeting and get in on him now. He's in a perfect position to produce, being on that top line. I think he's going to get every opportunity. I think maybe not so much in banger leagues, but in leagues where goals and assists are weighted, you got to pick him up right now because he's not going to be there. I think by Thanksgiving, he's going to be gone by then.
Another player in this situation, 22% on Yahoo leagues, and yet he is right. He's playing the top, like you said, top line, top power play minutes. He, the shot volume is not there, but he's playing with guys who will shoot the puck for him. So it's not surprising to see him rack up the assists. Obviously, just give the puck to Kyle Connor when you got a chance. Let him do what he's got to do. Also for the Winnipeg Jets here, their next 3 games coming up: New Jersey, might not be the easiest one, fine. But then Buffalo and Arizona. Buffalo is giving up goals. Arizona they've come back down to earth a little bit here. So game script here against New Jersey is going to be tough. So he's going to be on the ice. I expect him to flirt with 20 minutes of ice time. And then Buffalo and Arizona, he's going to get a great opportunity to go out there and just, rack up some points here. Again, he's not going to throw his weight around, which is fine. He's not going to have a ton of shots on goal, which is fine. But the core of what you're trying to do in fantasy hockey is goals and assists. And he does that. So he goes out there, he gets his goals, he gets his assists. He's a player who can contribute. He's going to get those top 6 minutes. For whatever reason, in Winnipeg, we don't like Nikolai Ehlers. So that ice time has to go somewhere else, and it goes to Alex Iafallo, and he's going to benefit from it. So right now, he's in a good spot. I'm of the same belief as well. He's not going to be on the waiver wire forever.
Iafallo, another guy that was a part of my cup-winning team, stacking him with Fiala and Dano as well. And he's pretty consistent. I mean, he's been pretty consistent throughout his career in the 30 to 40 point range. He could take a definite uptick here, being on that top line in Winnipeg. And so far, he's helped this team stay afloat right now. And whereas Winnipeg in third, 7-5, but we'll see what happens, because now they have their goalie that they're going to keep, and it's looking we'll see what happens in that tough Central Division.
Here's another just general philosophy for fantasy too. If you're looking for guys to pick up but you're not sure, if you look for line combination, just look for guys that are skating in top 6s and that are preferably on the top power play unit, but even that second power play unit, they're still going to get maybe 30 or 40 seconds of time each every 2 minutes. So those are the guys you want to be targeting to fill out those holes in your lineup, or maybe take shots on that. Maybe they got left on the waiver wire or undrafted, or somebody got impatient and cut them early. If you got the bench space, pick up guys like that and see what happens, because that's the difference for, long-term season success is drafting well is very important, but being able to snag those kind of guys on the waiver early and knowing that, hey, I got this guy in November and he's been starting for me almost every night. There you go. That's important.
Iafallo currently at 17 minutes, 40 seconds of ice time.
So, maybe like to see that number a little higher, but, for now, he's producing in the time he's giving, even if he is, collecting assists off of Kyle Connor and Scheifele there. But sometimes it's all about just being with the right players at the right time. So that's what he is right now.
Points are points, huh? They don't ask you how, they ask you how many.
Yeah. Listen, there's no style points either. The numbers are the numbers. So now that's fantasy focus. Now we like to focus on one team specifically each show and spend the bulk of the time on them. Of course, this week it's the Northern Alberta oil spill. There you see Ken Holland driving the tanker right into the shore there with the oil leaking, and the Canucks and the Sharks laughing in the ocean in the background, the whale and the shark. That's not very nice. But nonetheless, here we are. And the thing that's, this happened over the weekend, even off the heels of beating Seattle and maybe getting off the schneid a little bit. They still are 3-9-1. Obviously, high expectations for the Oilers this season, being right up there with the Vegas Golden Knights in terms of division championship expectations, according to Vegas. Woodcroft took the fall here, but is it really his fault? Because again, today you have guys like McDavid and Draisaitl saying like he never lost the room, blah, blah, blah. And yes, there is the old adage in sports. When the team is not clicking, you can't fire 20 players, so you fire the coach to shake the room up. But I don't know if coaching is necessarily the problem here.
I think that this team came in with a load of expectations. A lot of people picking them to be Stanley Cup finalists at the very least. And right now, the Oilers are the second worst team, not only in their division, not only in the conference. We're talking about all of the NHL at 3-9-1. They have a -16 goal differential. That's also second worst in all of the NHL. This is a tough Western Conference. It's a tough Pacific Division, and they're second to last now. It's going to be a tough hill to climb. We talked about, you look at the Rangers, who got off to a great start, and that's going to help them just like it did for the Devils last year. You get off to a great start and you can buy yourself some time in case there's a couple of bad spells here. Oilers are running out of that equity right now, and it's going to be tough for them to come back and, get in line with, the Golden Knights, the Canucks, who are off to an 11-3 start, the Kings, even the Ducks have a good start. The Kraken could turn things around. And then you got the Stars, Avalanche in the other side of the Western Conference. So they were really biting the bullet here. And it's going to be hard for them to turn it around. They're going to have some kind of epic turnaround with, McDavid going on a huge run here for the team with Draisaitl and turning this whole ship around.
That's fair. For me, it's a couple of concerning things, right, for the Edmonton Oilers. One, they have allowed the third most goals in the NHL. San Jose is top, easy there. They're a rebuilding franchise. The Minnesota Wild are completely lost, so no explanation there. And the Oilers are allowing 3.92 goals per game, but they're not scoring any goals. They're at 2.69, which is unacceptable for a team of that caliber to be able to, to contribute. I watched that game against San Jose because I'm a degenerate, and that's what I do: stay up late and watch, two of the worst hockey teams play each other. And I was just watching Edmonton's commitment to defense. And look, yours truly here is not very committed to defense. I also sometimes play on a Thursday at 10:30 p.m. So my commitment is very, very low. The guys I play with know, they poke the fun at me, and they remind me that the ice goes both ways. And I'm not Anze Kopitar. But I was watching, there was one play, and I had, shout out to Michael Clifford who brought it up, because I saw it in real time and I couldn't believe it. And then I saw the replay of it. And it's just Evander Kane just coasting back into it. That second goal that Hurdle scores is because Evander Kane is just mailing it in. And this team they looked like they had no structure. They had no care about what they were doing. And I mean, sure, Jack Campbell can't stop the puck. And, he went down to Bakersfield, had a terrible first game. So his confidence is completely shot. I mean, Stuart Skinner can't stop the puck either. But at some point, you can blame goaltending all you want. But if you don't play defense in front of any of those two goalies, they're going to look terrible. And the reason these holes, I guess, weren't exposed last year is because, I mean, Edmonton had the best power play in recent memory, and they had 3 players who had 100 points. So they were going out there and just steamrolling their opponents. And now McDavid and Draisaitl are good. They're just good. They're not beyond elite. And the Edmonton Oilers are 3-9-1. So that's what 2 good players will give you, a 3-9-1. It's easy to fire Jay Woodcroft. I thought he might make it a week. Apparently, he only made it 24 hours. So I'm assuming, and from what Ken Holland said, the loss against San Jose definitely had that conversation rolling, and I think they already had one foot out the door there. And I think everybody knew that was going to happen at some point. But you can't trade for anybody because you have no cap space. You have about, I don't know, $35K in cap space, so you're not doing anything. And if you did want to make a trade, like, you got to send significant salary the other way, and some teams got to bite that, which means you got to hand out some assets as well for the Arizona Coyotes or, other teams, San Jose or Columbus, to eat these salaries. That means you're sending Jack Campbell the other way. That means you're trying to find a buyer for Darnell Nurse, who's got $9 and some odd million for the next foreseeable future. So you got to find trade partners for these miserable deals that are going on. I think this was an easy decision for Ken Holland because he's the next head who's going to roll. If you don't fire Jay Woodcroft and you let this happen and you miss the playoffs after that kind of expectation, well, then you're next, because this is what, his third coach, fourth or something. This is McDavid's, I think, 5th. So you're going through coaches like diapers, and that's not something you want to do here. The Edmonton Oilers had a ton of expectations coming in, and they have completely flopped. And the only fault that they can blame is themselves. Those players look disengaged. They just don't care about playing defense because they don't have to. And now those little work ethic things, those, play well in your own zone, leave with the puck, everybody kind of figure out what you're doing. There are a multitude of times, again, against the San Jose Sharks, a team that cannot generate offense. And you could just see players just standing around, just looking terrible, no accountability in their own zone. So the Edmonton Oilers have nobody to blame but themselves. The players could say whatever they want, but up till this point, they have been miserable. They are a hot, flaming pile of garbage. And I don't know if they turn this ship around, because even if you bring in somebody new, the brouhaha is going to last a couple of minutes. I expect them to come out real strong the next couple of games. And I expect some other players, right, the depth guys, to feel concerned for their position because, I mean, something's got to change here. But I'm not looking at the Edmonton Oilers very confidently. I know it's never smart to bet against McDavid and Draisaitl. And I think Draisaitl is going to be the first one who's going to try to get this ship turned around, because he is done answering questions. He looks like he's in a Friday Zoom meeting at 4:00 and he doesn't want to be there. He wants out of it immediately. So I think, and Draisaitl's been good, but the rest of that team's got to follow, man. This is a committee, this is a result by committee, and there are some players just mailing it in right now.
Zach Hyman got off the schneid with the hat trick in that win. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins has been there for their entire ride too. But do you think, and like you said, Ken Holland's the next, and they're not going to fire a GM in season, but if they miss the playoffs, if Ken Holland thinks he's going to have a job for more than a day or two, he's sorely mistaken, because this team cannot miss the playoffs this year. And there's still enough time. And like you said, you can't bet against a McDavid or a Draisaitl. If the two of them, they could easily just get this team back to 500, and then you take it from there, kind of thing. But you got Chris Knobloch there, who is McDavid's coach back in junior, I believe. So maybe that helps a little bit. And I'm not trying to stir the pot here, but if this was any other sport, if this was LeBron James, who had failed to get past get to a finals by this point in his career, he would not be hearing the end of it. The guy has had the career he's had, and he still hears a bunch of it. If this was a quarterback that had high expectations, that has not got, I feel like he's handled all this well, and we all realize it's not his fault and it's not Draisaitl's fault. But at some point, when does he start to catch a little flack for it? Because he's gotten, but at some point, the best player has to take you to the next level. And I understand he doesn't have a lot of help around him, but he's also a generational talent. And again, if this was any other sport, he would be getting a ton of flack for not having at least gotten to a finals by now.
I assume that he's going to start to hear something if this team doesn't make it to the playoffs. I mean, like I said earlier, they were projected to go to the Stanley Cup Finals this season by a lot of people, in the NHL, by a lot of the commentators. A lot of people thought that the Oilers were going to be in the Stanley Cup Finals, and they are really pushing it to a point where they're going to have a Florida Panthers type run, maybe to just get into the playoffs. This is not, this is not this is a tough conference to get through, with the Golden Knights only having lost 2 games. You got the Canucks only have lost 3 games. The Kings are good. The Ducks might come back to earth, and the Kraken might turn it around, but there's only so many spots. And if this team doesn't turn this around, I could definitely see somewhere where they start to question Connor McDavid.
I'm going to give Connor McDavid an entire pass, because unlike the NBA, where there's 5 starters and then the rest of the bench players don't really matter, and there's super deals and there's all kind of talented players on one team, and players decide where they go, even though they are a massive headache no matter what, and then they just don't show up to their team and they still demand $300 million. But I mean, this is the Edmonton Oilers lineup as of this is their bottom 6 or players that play in it: Ryan McLeod, Matthias Janmark, Dylan Holloway, Derek Ryan, Connor Brown, Sam Gagner. And then on defense, right, we've already talked about Darnell Nurse's absolutely miserable contract. Matthias Ekholm is what he is. Evan Bouchard's not there to play defense. Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, Vincent Desharnais. This is not a good team. It's not a good team. And it's masked because of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And I'll throw Zach Hyman in there. He's been pretty good. And Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well. He's been here for the ride. I don't think he's been a disappointment. But again, hockey is a team sport, right? There's 20 guys on a team, and one guy unfortunately doesn't win a championship. There's only what more can we ask Connor McDavid to do? He is broken. When he sets his mind to do something, he's like, I want to lead the league in scoring. He does it. I want to set 150 points in modern day NHL. He does it. I want to be part of the highest scoring power play, but in the salary cap era, he does it. He's done everything that he has been asked to do. There is only so much one individual can do on a team. Unfortunately, he cannot play defense. He cannot play Cody Ceci's position, and he can't stop the puck. So there are other players on that team who need to step up, stop committing wage theft against their employer, and actually go out there and earn their salary. Because Jack Campbell came in on his deal. He's been a hot mess. Darnell Nurse's contract is just, it makes me want to vomit. These are deals that, Ken Holland, like I said, he's the next one because he brought in guys and they haven't done it. Connor Brown's come in. He has 0 points. Man is invisible. Connor Brown and I have the same amount of points playing with McDavid. It's unacceptable. So they have holes in their lineup, and that is through no fault of McDavid's. He can't play multiple positions. This team is just not built to win. They're not built the correct way to win a championship. And that doesn't fall on him. He doesn't come up with this game plan. He doesn't go out and sign the players. He just collects his big fat check that he has earned, by the way. McDavid has earned the money that he is. It's not his fault. But the rest of those guys on that team got to be better. And they're not. So I'm not giving him a single flack here because there's only so much this man can do. And he has done more than enough for us.
Now, let me play now, just to go back to Anthony's point for a minute, the one thing that does give Edmonton at least a little bit of hope here that they can turn it around is fine. Vegas, Vancouver, LA, top 3 teams in the Pacific, Dallas, Colorado, top 2 teams in the Central. Both wild card spots are wide open at this point if everything kind of stays away. So that does leave the door open for him. Now, let me play the other side of it. I said, why isn't McDavid getting blamed, blah, blah, blah. He's got 2 full years after this year left on his deal. If you're Connor McDavid right now, after everything you've been through and after everything, all the points that have been made by the 3 of us, what are the chances that you are going to legitimately sign in Edmonton again without having some sort of chance? I don't know if I'm not going to have that contract talk at least till my last year. I'm going to make them wait. There's no extension talk before then. I'm sorry, not the way the direction the franchise has been since I've gotten here.
I think a lot of it has to do as well with what Leon Draisaitl wants to do. He's making $8.5 million. I'm assuming he's going to go and get a raise as he has earned as well, right? So we need to stop patronizing players for going out and getting the money that they have earned because some of them have earned it. And some of them, like I said, are just mailing it in. I think the commitment here has to come from the team and say, hey, look, obviously we want you guys to be here. We need you. That I think is a pretty, we're not saying anything to anybody that they haven't heard. But you got to revamp this team. And you got to go out and find guys who play defense, right? What makes the Vegas Golden Knights so successful is that core is good in every zone. In their zone, the offensive zone, and the neutral zone. They have good players up front. They don't have a Connor McDavid or a Leon Draisaitl, but they have a player like Alex Pietrangelo who, got a lot of flack at some point, but he goes out there, he produces, he blocks shots, right? We don't talk about Alec Martinez and the sacrifice of the 200 block shots a game. Braden McNabb, all the guys who play there, none of it is sexy, none of it. But that's a team that understands how to win. And I think back to all the flack that Alex Ovechkin took. And when he finally won a Stanley Cup, were his playoffs numbers elite? No. But did that team come together and play some of the best team defense possible? Yes. And I think he had mentioned it once about the reason why some of these teams struggle in the same way that Toronto is your commitment to playing defense first. Defense wins championships. And that is, it's something no offensive player wants to hear. Again, yours truly is not committed to it. But we know that when it comes down to win, I'm going to make sure that I have my guy in my zone and he's not getting away from me. Evander Kane took one stride from the blue line back to his net and just didn't care. So you need guys who understand how to play the game of hockey. You have to start in your own zone and you have to work your way out. You cannot win in the NHL based on skill because everybody in the NHL is skilled with the exception of Ryan Reeves. Everybody else in the NHL, there's a ton of skill. So you got to outcompete and outwork your guy, and you got to want it more. And right now, the Edmonton Oilers don't even want it at all because, again, there was no reason to lose to San Jose, and then they did, and they look fragile. This is a team that they know that when they give up some goals right now, they can't just outscore their opponent, and they're not willing to put in the effort to win.
You mentioned that this was his fifth coach already. Like how much more does he want to endure here? Because now people are thinking that he's pulling strings, and he doesn't like that. Like I don't know what Connor McDavid's mindset is at, but even the great one left Edmonton. Messier left Edmonton.
Yeah.
So
I will say this though: when McDavid is committed to doing something, there is no stopping him. When he sets his mind to something, so if he decides that he wants to win a cup in Edmonton, he will do it. But unfortunately, he needs the rest of them, right? Kind of like when, everybody's watched The Last Dance. Like when Michael Jordan decided things were happening, they were happening, right? So you have your Jordan, right? Draisaitl can be Pippen, but you need the rest of that team to show up. You need the rest of those, players to sit in there and be as committed as they are to getting the job done, and it starts in their own zone. And maybe that's asking McDavid and Draisaitl and saying, hey, maybe it's not 150 points a year from each one of you. Maybe it's only 110, which think about is still a ridiculous number for any player. But maybe this is a case where you say, hey, we got to be better in our own zone. We got to help our goalie out and our defense, not a little bit, a lot of bit. But we got to play better defense. I'm talking early 2000 New Jersey Devils put you to sleep every single game, literally having to remove the red line for the two-line pass because if not, hockey would have suffocated itself boring. Maybe that's the type of hockey you need to play right now.
Now, to kind of put a bow on this, because you said you don't like to play defense. Now, when you're leaving like a rental car place and they tell you don't back up because it's going to destroy your tires because of the way the spikes are, that red line, Chris, doesn't work like that. You can skate backwards over it the other way, and it's not going to ruin your blades. It's not going to trip you. Speaking as a defenseman here that loves a guy that back checks from time to time, and I'm not covering a whole right side of the ice myself because nobody's got the point. Just saying.
I am making it back to the zone. Am I the first guy back? No, because I play left wing. That's not my responsibility. I play with other players. This is not true, actually. On Thursdays, I play center, and I'm still not the first guy back. But I am of the belief that if you score, then you don't have to go back the other way. That's it. That's what I've figured out, right? Funnel me the puck. up the ice in full stride, me pretending that I have the stride of Connor McDavid, which I clearly don't because I run out of gas by the time I get to the offensive blue line. But I look, but I understand. I've played again. Some of the people know we've played in some tournaments against I've said some really good players, and I understand the assignment. All of a sudden I've turned into Patrice Bergeron, where I know what the assignment is to do. I know what I got to get done, and I know who I got to watch. When that guy's on the ice, I'm in your shorts, and I'm not letting you go anywhere. And that's what other teams have done right now to McDavid and Draisaitl, but they don't have to do it to anybody else because there's no compete. So it's one. If I know that it can be done, if I know that in game clinching important championship games that I need to be a little bit more responsible, I will do it. But on a 10-30, a game like 9 out of 20, well,
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Tough sell, man. You guys are paid to block shots, get the puck out. Just hit me up at the red line, you know?
Fair enough. I'll look for you on the red line. Try and bank it off the boards to you. So yeah, we'll hope we'll see if Edmonton turns things around now. You got the new coach in there. That they play tonight against the Islanders, so you're not going to have a lot of ice to operate with in general, or just starting out of the gate. But nonetheless, we'll see. You know, coaching changes. Teams tend to have a little bit of a spark after that, and then we see what happens after that. You know, initial spark fades out, and then we'll see what happens when it goes to, day in, day out with the new coach and see how the routine goes. So Edmonton, plenty of time to turn it around. They're in a division and a conference where they can still make the playoffs, but it's got to start happening soon. Now, other news that came down earlier today, the Hartford Whalers, they're going to quote unquote debut the white throwback Whaler jersey on February 10th against Anthony's New Jersey Devils. They wore the green ones in the past. This will be the first time they wear the white ones. So that brings us over to sweater weather, which is a new segment we like to have here where we debate two different jerseys. Considering Jaromir Jagr's number 68 is going to get retired about a week after that against the Kings, which of these two Penguins jerseys would you rather own? The early 1990s classic white with that iconic Penguins logo there back from one of his 2 cup appearances in his first 2 seasons, or are you going with that early 2000s more modern, updated Penguin look with the trim with the yellow on the one side, with the gray coming off the other? What do we got here, Ant? We'll open with you. Which one are you taking?
I like that early 90s classic look. Got the stick in hand, got the puck. I like that one as the go-to more than the black one. If you could bring that one back up again. I didn't. That was too. I think that one's too modern. I don't even know. Is he holding a stick there or anything? It's just like half of a penguin body. I like the full look here for the penguin in the triangle.
Yeah, he's got the penguin. He's not holding a stick anymore, but he's walking. He's moving.
100% there with that. 100%. A penguin holding a stick. I love it. That's an absolute great one.
See,
it is a superior jersey to the rest of them. I'm not saying the black one is bad. I'm just saying the penguin is holding a hockey stick and he's got skates on. That's a good one.
If we're buying just the jersey and not a Jagr jersey, then yeah, I probably lean white over the one on the right. But if I'm getting a Jagr jersey, I mean, that screams Jaromir Jagr, like peak Jagr, that Penguins jersey, that it has that 2000s kind of like style to it, late 90s style with the gray shoulders with the yellow stripes up there. I don't know, like for me, I like that white classic one, but if I'm buying a Jagr jersey, I got to go with the one on the right there. I'm going early 2000s.
And we're looking at this classic white from the 90s. That's their home jersey from that time, right? I mean, this is when all teams had, I don't know when it was that they switched, but we're talking about when all the teams had the white jersey as their home jersey.
Coming out of the 04-05 lockout is when they decided to switch to dark jerseys at home, whites on the road, to try and increase jersey sales because, people buy what they see at home. But to me, when the Detroit Red Wings come to town, I want to see those red jerseys. When the Maple Leafs come to town, I want to see those blue jerseys. Like, I don't get me wrong. If you told me to pick between the Rangers blue and the Rangers white jersey, I like the blue jersey. But I want to see the other team's colors. I've seen the Rangers blue jersey. I can't tell you how many times. I would, when the Habs come to town, I want that red jersey. And So either, if you did it for jersey selling purposes because it was white jerseys at home for that many years, doesn't the pendulum need to swing back the other way now? Don't we need to go back to white jerseys at home, or can we just make it where there's no rule, and as long as you communicate with the team that's traveling to you ahead of time? I don't know. I like football system where you kind of just wear what you want,
Everybody wear alternate jerseys. That's it. Everybody wears their third jersey. Problem solved.
Problem solved. Although you can't have two of the same color. That's the only thing.
There you go. See?
Yeah. No, two of the same color. Or again, just wear what you want to wear, as long as it's coordinated with the other team, so they have.
The NHL is not about having fun. Okay, there's no fun in the NHL. There are rules, and they are arbitrary. They are made up, but they are rules.
Well, we even talked about this in our chat the other day about, Hockey Fights Cancer. They have those nice jerseys and they can't even wear them on the ice for the night. It's just out for practice, maybe.
What you could do as well is pick a heavy NHL night, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. One night a week, it's white jerseys at home. Tuesdays, you wear your whites at home. That way, at least you get a little bit of a taste of it. Just something to change it up a little bit, get all those colors popping a little more, and let the season ticket holders see something besides white jerseys just come through their building every night that they go.
The purists do not like that you are suggesting any type of change. There are people who tell me they missed the red line, that they missed the 2-line pass.
No,
I'm assuming these people just don't like fun.
I find it funny that you're saying the purists are coming after me because I want to go back to what the purist way was originally.
It's changed now. They've gotten used to it. That's it. See, now anytime there's change, somebody's against it. They don't like
the Devils' home jersey, their alternate jersey for a while was the white version of the green and red. And then they recently did the same colors of the when they were in Kansas City or Colorado, and did it with the white as well. And I like it. I like the look. I like the white at home. I think that goes along with baseball for me. You wear the whites at home. You wear the road grays on the road, and the alternates as well. So I'm all for switching it back. Maybe they do it every couple of years. Maybe they switch it back up every decade or whatever. Or like you said, you know what? Just let them pick.
Let them pick what they want to wear, but it'll never happen because, like you said, Gary Bettman does not like to have fun. Does not like to have fun. Sorry.
No fun.
No, not on his watch. No. But we do like to have fun, but the fun has ended for this particular episode of Bettor Hockey Now here on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm. Don't forget, get that Fantasy Alarm All Pro subscription, and you get all the great content that Chris and Andrew Dewhurst and Josh Wagner are putting out there for you each and every week. Fantasy, DFS, betting, whatever. They got it all covered, just like we do here on BHN. But another edition in the books. We'll be back with you. We're going to be coming out on Monday evenings versus Tuesdays moving forward, so be on the lookout for that as we get it out to you a little bit earlier. But for Mr. Christopher Morais at Fuzzy Chris 91, toughing it out with a little respiratory infection. For Mr. at Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, and quite the exquisite Mighty Ducks jersey. Cannot let that go unmentioned. I'm Adam Bedard. We'll be back with you next week here on BHN on BSN.
Bettor Hockey Now is on the Bettor Sports Network.